I'd like to welcome everyone. Come to Zichron in Europe tonight in 9 days. We implemented Zichron in Europe last year in the Learner Network title because we have weekly chizuk evenings of different rabbanim and mashgichim speaking throughout the year, shmuzin on Thursdays. So we felt it was important to remember in the 9 days the Churban Europe, and we should pass it on for generations to come. So that's how the Zichron Europe came about. We have 2 Holocaust survivors this evening who came out to share their stories with us, and it's not easy for them to speak. It's not a story of growing up in the country. It's painful. And Rabbi Briss, the first time last year, he agreed to speak about it because he saw the generations, the new generation coming and the old generation going, and there's not much of the new generation who can hear from the old generation. So he strengthened himself and picked himself up and said, fine, I'm willing to speak. And after last year he spoke for us in Baltimore, he spoke with John Hopkins, and he brought copies. After he spoke, they did research on John Hopkins, and they found papers from him going to the camps, documented surgery. That was for your foot? But I'll tell you his story, and people can see it. We have it blown up over here on the wall. We'll pass it around, and we have other copies. We also have Rabbi Abe Chapnik from Howell, New Jersey. Went through the Buchenwald camp, Gehenna, together with Chief Rabbi of Eretz Yisrael, Rabbi Lau, and his older brother, and he's going to share with us his stories for us to remember, for our children to remember. I want to share with you a small story what I didn't intend to say until I pulled up to the shul here. First of all, I would like to thank Mayor Lieberman for arranging and all the other people who were involved in the shul, giving us the hall, and all the other sponsors, and Ami for helping us set up the screen, and parents for coming down to the video, and everyone else, thank you. And I pulled up over here to the driveway. I didn't even know where the shul was exactly. I recall 12 years ago, I used to drive around Lakewood when this neighborhood wasn't really established. I used to like to know who owned which houses and sniff around a bit. And a few houses away from this shul, I remember knocking on the door. And the old lady opened the door, and I asked her name. Does she own the house? Does she want to sell the house? And she tells me she's Jewish. I saw a big cross on the door, and she tells me that her husband's Christian. So I took an interest in her, and I said, forget about trying to buy the property, but like if you're Jewish and your husband's a guy, like why'd you marry him? And she started telling me her story in the Holocaust, that that in Europe, she was a young girl and she used to get beaten up in school for being Jewish, and went through the Holocaust, and she was terrified to identify herself as a Jew, so she married a guy. She thought it was security. This is a few houses away from this shul, so I'm sharing this story with you. When I pulled up, I remember that story. There's more to the story, but I'm not here to say my story. At this point, I'd like to introduce Rabbi Shir Brisk. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the introduction. Try to briefly. Never shear brisk. I was born in Romania, part of a country called Transylvania, which switched hands between Hungary and Romania. The time I was born, it was Romania. And at the time, Jewish population, and my grandfather was the rov in the village, about 60 or 100 families. Our village is called Lechnitz, and a couple neighboring villages. The life before the early 40s was pretty much calm. I went to Cheder in the morning. It's about 7 o'clock. I was one rabbi for about 15 to 18 children, starting from Aleph Beis to Gemara. We had to go to public school. There's no Jewish schools. But public school was 6 days a week. We went to public school 9 o'clock to 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock, back to Cheder. And my grandfather, as the rov of the village, was very friendly with the director of the school. Arranged that if we go to Shabbos, we can just go for 2 hours, not to carry books, just to sit there and be counted. This went on very well. When I was about 6 years old, my parents moved to a different location in St. Transylvania. It was called Gerda St. Miklosh. My father came a position as a rov, a shreifet, chazan, again, traveling between little villages, back and forth. I was there about 2 years. It was not a good cheder for my age. So when older brother and I went back to Lechnitz to our mother's parents, grandparents. In 1941-42, when Hungary joined the Axis, the German forces, they divided Transylvania. Part went to Romania, part went to Hungary. The village where our parents lived, Lunka, was on the border of Hungary and Romania. Jews born there, who were not born there, had to evacuate it. They had to leave the place. And our father got a position somewhere deep in Hungary called Székesfehérvár. Older brother and I went to stay with our grandparents in Lechnitz. After about 1942, or about 43, my bar mitzvah had a big party in Shul, in my grandfather's house. Everyone was us. So what they distributed was, instead of a kazayas maitzi, a piece of herring or a piece of fish, everyone got a whole new roll. I said Matshat Shudas, and that was it. My parents couldn't come. It was too far to travel. And, in 1944, again, 1943 or beginning of 44, things got worse. A lot of Germans moved in there, and there was a group, Hitler Jugend, where they recruited 12-year-olds, 13-year-old boys to train them in the military. And those were very anti-Semitic. Jewish boys had to go to the training too, but we were always beaten up, so we had to go. And that's when the friendly neighbors started to become enemies. I remember when one Sukkot evening, this Hitler youth group wandered the streets, heard the Sukkot singing, they threw rocks there. We couldn't finish our meal then, so we had to go inside. It went like from bad to worse. We had to wear Jewish yellow bands, stars, Jewish stars, on the jacket, on the hands, armbands, yellow armbands, marked Jew. This was around April 44, they took us to a ghetto. All the neighboring villages went to the big city, it's called Bistritz. They had made a ghetto there. There were about 3,000 people from the area, from that area. The ghetto, we were right after Pesach, so we took some food along with us. Right after Shavuos, after we finished the davening, the Sudas, they gathered together, lined us up into the middle of the plaza, took trucks, called us to the train station on the way to Auschwitz. We picked up the big cattle carts, like big box carts, hosing about 80 to 100 people in there, families together. We did put up some curtains for a division. One side of the curtain had some water that we took along. The other side curtain for waste. We traveled 3 days till they got to the, without opening those train doors, the car doors. We got to a town in Czechoslovakia called Košice. There they opened the doors. They let us get some fresh air, breathe a bit. Then the Germans took over. The train, the Hungarians gave it up, the Germans took over. And on another day or so, we traveled to Auschwitz. In Auschwitz, we only had our clothes with us. The Hungarians tried to take away all the valuables. Anyway, so we got to Auschwitz, and people unloading the cars, they were prior prisoners, mostly Polish people who were there from years before. The Polish were interned early in the early 40s, 42, 43. So anyway, I had my children in my hand. I was hiding it. One of the people who unloaded the car saw my children, so he asked me, "Do you speak Yiddish?" So I said, "Yeah." The reason they asked me Yiddish because a lot of Hungarian Jews spoke mostly Hungarian or German, not too much Yiddish. So I told him yes. So he said, "You see up at the head of the line, Mengele. He comes here. He decides people where should go. Older people go one side, the children, able-working people go to the other side. So when you go there, tell them you're 16, you're a Feldarbeiter." I spoke German, so when he asked me that's why I answered in German. I got closer to him, he tapped my arm. And I got to the right side where the workers were. They took us into Auschwitz. Took us into a big barrack with a lot of showers there. Everything, take all our clothes off except the belt and the shoes. I had a tefillin in my shoe. One shoe tefillin, one triyah, one shorosh. After the showers, they took out, they shaved everybody, haircut everybody, and didn't have much to shave. I was only 13. So, and then one of the guards noticed that film and he grabbed it away. So they allowed it. Took us into the camps, the area called Birkenau. That's where they had the detention. It was almost like a transitional camp. This camp where we in the group, our group was called Zigeunerlager, a gypsy camp. A lot of gypsies round up by the Germans also. And they got not called out, the guards called out, anything under 18, line up one side. So they took us into 2 barracks, about 800, 900, 1,000 children in a barrack. The sleeping accommodations, we had 3-tier bunks, about maybe 3 meters wide. Each bunk Each line in the bunk housed about 30 kids. And we sat up, we couldn't go stretch out to sleep, so we just sat on a straw mattress floor. And the life in the barracks was pretty bearable. We survived. Mostly took us out every morning to count. It was called uphell. They lined up in front of the barrack, about 5 deep on the lines. The 2 blocks next to each other, we lined up all the children together. I think about over 1,000, 1,500 children lined up. They counted every morning. After the count was done, a truck went by, carts went by, they brought food. A big ration. It was a nice, dried out, brick-looking bread. They gave us 1 loaf, like a building brick, divided for the 5 in each line. Another cart came along with some liquid. It's supposed to be coffee or tea. I don't know what it tasted like, not like that. Not like the Taster's Choice. After the counts, we went into the blocks again. About 2 hours later, we went out in the plaza, walking around, marching, counting, looking back and forth. And in about a week or so, when we were there, they took our children to out of the camp. We didn't know where we were going. Took us out in the field about a couple of kilometers away, where we cut out sod. And wheelbarrows, filled up wheelbarrows with sod, hauled it to another area in the camp, and planted sod. About, this went on for about a couple of days. A week later, back out again, picked up the sod, hauled it back to the place we took it from. It kept us busy, not to rebel. This was in the evening. We lined up again, counted, brought some evening food, or some type of a soup, which was supposed to be pea soup, potato soup, but mostly we found in there was potato peels. A couple of us kids got together and said, when we're liberated, we're going to make a feast of potato soup peels. And a couple of us who survived, we did that. This was around Tisha B'Av time. The Germans knew exactly when the Jewish holidays were. Around Tisha B'Av time, they made a selection. It's called selecting the young people, the young boys, and took them to the crematorium. Again, big lines with 5 deep, and the Mengele came around with another SS guard. They went by each line, looked at it, go back. Each line pulled out 1 kid. The other line pulled out 2 kids. We had a couple of friends who were religious, like we kept her davening a little bit, so we stuck together. And we lined up, like a tall boy should not be near a short boy. So we lined up symmetrically so they didn't notice a big difference. And that's how the line survived. So that's how we went. They took out at the time about maybe 600-700 kids didn't come back to the barracks. We never saw them again. This went on for about a month or so, maybe 6 weeks, 7 weeks. Before Rosh Hashanah, they made a selection again. Again, they pulled out little kids, set them up in a separate box, and sealed it off. They couldn't get in there. Also then, another short kid and I were hiding in latrines. And when they were counting at about 30, 40 lines, one of the counted ones ran over to us, said, "You better come back because they're counting in the latrine." So we ran out, and when we got there, without us noticing us, we went back to the counted line where they were counted already. That's how I survived the second selection. In this camp there was a famous Rav Tzvi Meisels, the Weizsäcker, who later came to America, opened a yeshiva in Chicago, or Cheder. And he kept encouraging us, don't lose faith, keep up, daven whatever you can, say brachas, whatever you can, whatever you remember. One boy remembered Shema, the other one remembered Ashrei, the other one remembered Leinu. We kept keeping alive. This kept the spirit going. And one time, somebody came to our block early in the morning, run quickly to block number 17 or 16, whatever it was. The rabbi has a film there. So a couple of lined up, each got a shalyat bihad. They put it on the film one day. And Rosh Hashanah, he got a hold of a chauffeur. He got up early in the morning, and the block that was sealed off, the kids, they were begging him to come blow shofar before they take him away. Somehow the eldest of the block, they call the capo, he agreed to let them in with the chauffeur. It was dangerous for him, because if they would caught him, they would probably shoot him right away. And around 5 o'clock in the morning on first day of Rosh Hashanah, we heard the tekiyos. Not all 100, but we heard some. On the second day, we couldn't get him anymore. He was, I don't know where he disappeared from us. I don't know. Between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, in between, they took a transport of 250, 260 children, took us out of the camp. We didn't know where we were going. Ended up, they took us into Germany, to a camp called Kaufering, Lager 4. It was a transition camp also. We were there about 4 or 5 days without any good food there. Went to a camp called Kaufering Lager 9, number 9 camp. From there, they took us out on trucks to the German farmers, different areas. We helped the farming, picking the crops, potatoes, sugarcane, corns. This was there about 2 or 3 weeks, so we had a good food there. The German farmers gave us good food. They cooked special. And actually, one of them were very sympathetic with us. But he said they couldn't help, but we have to do what we have to do. And this went around for about a month or maybe 6 weeks. In November, they liquidated our camp because there was no more work for the farmers. They took us into a camp called Bayern, where the Germans build underground shelters for rockets. What we did is put up telephone wires, put up the heavy poles. About 10, 12 kids carried a pole. One fell down, got a hit in the head, another one. They kept us after us. Another group of kids were digging trenches. The Germans were producing a rocket at the time that would shoot straight to England, but it didn't materialize because the British beat them before that. This was in Kalbayr, and then winters came in. Our blocks were cold. There was no heat. There was a small oven at the end of the block where we were, which the block eldest, the block leader, set around there. And as we go along every day to work, there was snow. I had lost my shoe and I couldn't find something to wear, so I put rags around it with newspaper. As we walked off, my feet got frostbitten, and it got so bad that I couldn't walk anymore. So they put me into a called a shonen block, a block where immobile people were put in with kids. Again, it was cold in there. We bunked up, 2 kids together, 3 kids together, into the warm blankets to keep warm. All of a sudden one night I felt cold. The kid next to me passed away. And I knew his family. So after the war, after liberated, I told the family when it happened. But I didn't know the exact Yiddish date, but approximately when. This went on till end of December. January, they liquidated this camp. So people in the block, the block Ältester, the leader of the block, was speaking Yiddish also. He said, when you get up, walk, don't crawl. Get somebody to help you to walk. If you don't walk, they're not going to take you. Anyway, so my brother was on one side, another friend on the other side, and we walked out to the train on the way to Dachau. We arrived in Dachau. Again, there were some Dutch soldiers. One of them spoke German, Yiddish. He told us, saw me crawling there. He says, get up straight and walk. Get up straight and walk. So I walked to the truck, it was fine, and unloaded the trucks at the hospital in Dachau. They assigned me to a hospital. I didn't know what it was, away from my brother and other kids who went different areas. It turned out to be that they took me to the hospital. Hospital was very nice set up. They had a show place for the Red Cross came visiting. So they showed how well they treat the prisoners. They had some American soldier prisoners also, so they had to show how nice they were. On January 11th, I had surgery. Without my knowledge, they took me to this operating room. I amputated the toes and forefinger on both feet. I didn't know for 3 days what happened, but to change the bandages, I was screaming a lot because there was no suturing, no anesthesia. So this went on for about a week or 2 weeks. And all of a sudden, somebody saw my brother in a different area hospital. They brought him in. We sat next to each other in the hospital beds. Hospital was treated us very well. They changed linens every other day. They had good food as a show place for the Red Cross. And this was around, a brother knew when Pesach was. So we were serving the rations. We didn't want to eat the bread. So we put it aside on the bed. We figured maybe after Pesach we'll eat it or not eat it. So we talking whether we should eat it or not, because chametz over Pesach, we can't eat that. But we didn't have a problem because the bread disappeared. So we just got some soups and one time when they changed my bandages, they got so weak, I was screaming so loud, I needed blood transfusion. Took 2 prisoners from the soldiers, fed them well, and I got 2 transfusions of blood while I was in there. And as I got better, I couldn't walk. I just was sliding around. And April 29th, which was design year, we were liberated by the American Army. I think it was the 7th Tank Division. the story went on that a Jewish group, tank leader, went ahead of the general force, came into Dachau. Because the Dachau was rigged, the hospital was rigged to be blown up as soon as the Americans arrived. But the doctor in charge was an SS man who knew the future would be before him, so he didn't blow up the hospital. And the soldiers came in. I was very weak, I couldn't walk. So they transferred me to a hospital with the army. Army had a hospital set up. There, they fed me to recoup a grain. Every day got some Ovaltine, some good food. And as I started getting up, I asked the doctor to give me some crutches so I can walk. The doctor says, no crutches. If you take crutches now, you'll never walk. And I didn't take the crutches. They didn't give them to me. I still wanted them. Later that year, in June, July, I was transferred to a DP camp hospital in Veldafing. And at Veldafing at the time, the Gluzmager Rebbe was there, also one of the prisoners. And he had arranged to have a kosher food for the area, for the people. A kosher kitchen was set up, but the Midrashim, he asked to join, supplied Gemaras from the group of Rabbonim who were helping refugees. I forgot the name of it at the minute. They sent Sidurim, Mazarim, and I was still in the hospital, so somebody brought me some kosher food in the hospital. For Rosh Hashanah, they set up a temporary shul, and they were davening there, Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. On Yom Kippur, an American soldier walks in, he wants to daven for Yom Kippur, Lieutenant Silber, his name. He sat down at the end of the shul, took off his shoes, and when the Rebbe walked in, he saw him. He stepped back, he said, you're an army, an American soldier, you're representing the government, put your shoes on. Didn't want to do it. He said, my parents are in Williamsburg and I'm Shama Shabbos and Yom Kippur, I want to wear shoes. The Rebbe came back to him and said, put your shoes on. He did put the shoes on. Within a half hour or so, or an hour, General Eisenhower, President Eisenhower was the Supreme Commander, Allied Forces at the time, came to the camp to visit the camps. A group, the Rebbe ahead of it, went out to greet him with bread and wine, like the Torah says, lechem v'yayin. So he was very amazed by the greeting. He asked the Rabbi, what can we do for you? The Rabbi said, it's a kosher food we need, and we need supplies for Sukkot, so Yom Tov coming up. And the Ababino are only available in Italy. So he said his adjutant, General Patton, was with him. He said, dispatch a plane to the Italian city, the army there, get the supplies that the rabbi needs. And thanked him for that. General Eisenhower said, you should give him a bracha, give him a blessing. Rabbi, give me a blessing. The Lieutenant Silber interpreted. Now you see how he would look without shoes on. So that's how they told him, the Rebbe told him, you have reached your height and your command now, but you're destined for a higher position to serve the American people in the world. And General Patton also asking for a bracha, but he didn't get such a good bracha. But the lieutenant interpreted him, said, your name will be engraved in Williamsburg. In December, or in November, they got to Bremerhaven. That's the port where ships leave to come to America. And the closing Rebbe was there, and we went also from Prin, who was taking us to Bremerhaven to come here. Then we met the Rebbe again. And how come I was still keeping Yiddish, or davening, or this? I didn't have film then, so we switched one to the other, back and forth. So that's fine. And there was a ship strike. So the ship didn't leave till December 9th. It was an army transport, Marine Marlin. The ship held about 800 people who came to America, different quotas, children, women, children, everything together. And our group was in it, the children's group was there. And in our children's group, we had about 12 kids who kept Shema Shabbos kosher. And the Rebbe had arranged on the ship, there was a Jewish baker, a Greek Jew, who served for the bakery for the ship, for the entire population. He had arranged with him that before he starts baking for the population, he would come down and make special breads for our group. We had passis roll. And again, we had peanut butter, jelly, sardines, daily. On the ship, it took us 12 days. We arrived in America on the 5th night Hanukkah, December 20th, 46. On the ship was very hot, warm. Again, every morning, kids group tried to sleep on certain vicinity together. The Rebbe woke up one of the boys. He said, "Get up, go through Nagelwasser." The Rebbe came along with each one, got Nagelwasser in the morning. We davened a little bit, whatever we could by heart. And one night it was very hot underneath in the lower deck. So another boy and I went up on the top deck, took blankets and lied down there. The wind was blowing, it was December, so we covered ourselves. About a couple of hours later, the Rebbe comes out another way, "They're looking for you. What are you doing up here?" I said, "We needed some air." I said, "You foolish kids, you need air. Why are you covering yourself with blankets?" Anyway, so he cared. We arrived, it was Friday, Erev Shabbos. The Rebbe had arranged ahead of time. Our group was taken to the Bronx in a children's home. The Rebbe had arranged ahead of time for people in the Bronx who live near the home to bring kosher food. It was a Rosenberg family, two brothers, Rosenberg, and a Hirschfeld, what was it? Goldhirsch family. There was a shul, the Orthodox shul, Rabbi Tumim was a rabbi there. They brought food Friday evening. The three boys come with leather jackets and caps, and we didn't know about the food arrangement. So they brought challah and fish and chicken, but we don't eat it. You know where it came from. We ate the challah and the fish. We didn't eat the chicken. And the morning they came back, the boys came back, take us to shul. We went to shul. They said, "How foolish of us, we didn't eat. We didn't know." It's Yiddish mention, Heimische mention, the word and Fayetz Eden and the kosher shul. So we went there. The child, we got some good hot cholent, and 6 months we didn't have. By Sunday morning, the Rebbe had arranged with the UNRWA to release us to the yeshiva. Sunday, Monday, we went back to yeshiva in Williamsburg, South 5th Street, for the Yeshiva Sheriff Sapleta. The Rebbe had arranged with Yeshiva Torah with us to send twice a week English teachers to teach English. It was good for about a year or 2 years, fine. And we tried to get to night school, but the Rebbe was against it, so we had to push it off for a while. Anyway, later on, I did go to night school and learned some accounting and started to work. This was in 1952, 53. I was in Yeshiva about 6, 7 years, 8 years. And after working for a while, I had to start looking for a shidduch. So, another friend of mine married a girl from Baltimore. So we went to visit. That's how I met a future wife. And after you got married, we lived in Crown Heights for a couple of years. Then we moved to Baltimore. And I was speaking to one of the Goyish groups in Baltimore for first responders. They had to take a class on the Holocaust. I was speaking there, so somebody asked me, how do you feel about revenge? What do you feel? I said, revenge comes from God. My revenge is my family. Every child born is on the coma on Hitler. That's our revenge. Just want to make one point. During this Holocaust, the Klosterberg Rebbe got sick. He was lying on the ground. He told his friends around him, when we got to this place, I'm going to build a hospital for Jews. In 1958, they started building a hospital in Netanya, Kiryat Sanz Medical Center. And that was his personal revenge. Every baby born in a hospital was revenge. And we had set up a group in Baltimore to help raise funds for this hospital. That was my help for the repayment thing. Thank you. Anybody want questions?
Anyone has questions?
Can you tell us any of the other things that you saw in terms of observance of Yiddishkeit in the camps and serious Nefesh that you saw? Any particular other examples that you saw?
The biggest thing was Rav Meisels. He was put together in camp with us as boys. There was also there a Mishkolzer of Gottlieb, who kept encouraging the boys. When he saw a kid wandering around, he said, "It's the Gedavent, it's because of Brochus." So he kept us up, kept us going.
Maybe the Shah should say that with the story that the Zusha got from the Mikvah on Rosh Hashanah.
The Rabbi Meisels was blowing shofar. I had heard the story. He was caught in front of the camp. There was a big water gathering, like a small lake. So he got punished, thrown into the lake. And he came out. He said, "Mashin gewein in the mikveh."
Did you maintain your relation with Rabbanim?
Pardon?
In your years that you were in Baltimore, did you maintain your friendship with the Klosenberg? Or with
Yeah. Stay with Rosenberg all the time, yeah.
So we used to go to Williamsburg to...
Once in a while, yeah. And Union City mostly.
There's a book that came out to Klosenberg Rebbe. I think it's worthwhile to read the book. If I want to read that book.
Yes.
Whatever you mentioned tonight is all in the book as well. It's a worthy book to have.
How are you able to keep your mood in the company?
It was grained in from 3 years old on. As I said, my parents and grandparents, both sides, father and mother, all rabbis, all rabbonim, and famous in Hungary. And that's how we lived. we lived the religion, not just,
How many of the people that were interned in the camp who came from a family?
very large number, very large number. From our village, there were 2 or 3 people met in camp. Yeah. I forgot to mention one story. While in camp in Auschwitz, one morning my father came along with the food delivery. He noticed us. He was happy to see our father. For 2 or 3 days, our block got extra rations. Then we didn't see him again. He died later at the labor camp.
When you say Rabbi Mises, you mean the Weitzner?
Yeah,
Did you have a relationship with him after the war?
I met him once or twice, but he was in Chicago. We were, yeah.
What role did he play in the camps?
He was the camp, the chief rabbi of the camp.
Yeah.
No official title. He just encouraged kids. He saw kids.
I mean, after the war.
Huh?
After.
No, in Auschwitz. He saw kids wandering around. He came over. Where you from? What's your name? He knew our grandparents. He knew.
Did you know about the gas chambers when you were there?
We knew, but they made us not to know.
But they were?
They made believe that we don't know, but we knew. And once they took a transfer of kids away, we knew where they were going. And at one time, somebody came to DP camp in Comforting later, was there. He saw one truckload went with the kids. They were singing. It was Shabbos, you know, singing, yeah,
On the way.
on the way.
And you heard that?
I didn't hear it personally, but someone told me he was there. And it's documented. Yeah, the Germans document everything. The pictures they have, tapes they have. So I just read in the Ahmadiyya recently, someone wrote, the German cameras saw the physical things. They didn't see the spirituals. They couldn't take away our spiritual living.
Did you ever travel back?
No. No intention.
Why did you think that people were going to the left? When Mengele sent people to the right to the left, if you didn't know about the gas chambers, where did you think they were going?
We knew they're not going to labor camp. We didn't know exactly at the time the gas chambers, but later we found out, about a month or two later. They established yahrzeit dates for the villages, the day thereafter Auschwitz.
Any other family members survived there?
One,
Any other family members survived? You mentioned your brother.
uncle, 2 uncles.
Did you keep close to that afterwards?
One,
Did you keep close to it afterwards?
yeah, one was the crossing the road, we were in DP camp with him. Then he came to Williamsburg, we went there to visit him, yeah.
How often did new groups come to Auschwitz?
Almost daily. Like between Pesach and Shavuos, mid-July, almost every day groups came.
How did you, as a 12-year-old, pretend you were 16? You couldn't handle your height?
No, I was short, but I spoke fluent German, and my strong telling him, I'm 16 Jahre Feldarbeiter. So he looked and he touched my muscles. And
You approached them on a single line?
single line there I go, yeah.
Can you tell us what you were thinking or feeling while you were standing in front of them?
I was thinking what this Polish Jew told me. You tell him that, you could go to work. And we knew that the others are not going to work. So,
Did you know who he was?
yes.
the Polish unit had knowledge that they needed that type of workers? The Polish Jew that told you to stay,
Yeah.
he knew that they needed that at that time.
He knew, yeah, he knew.
Physically beaten in hospital?
On?
You mentioned the incident in the hospital, your legs.
Yeah.
Were you beaten in Auschwitz on a regular basis?
Did I?
Were you beaten physically?
Once or twice, when I couldn't keep up with carrying the poles. I hit in the head once, still have a mark. By me being in Dachau, I was luckier than some of the others who had marched. There was a big march from Buchenwald towards other areas, where a lot of people died during that march.
What words would you give of direction to parents of today's generation?
Like I say, we have to keep up our faith, follow the footsteps of our parents, grandparents.
Could you give us all a bracha?
I would say, Yimala Hashem Mishalosechem L'Toiva. The reason we say not Kol Malashas Mishalosechem, because we don't know what we want. So we say Hashem knows what we want, L'Toiva. We should have it all.
Anybody that lives through that went through the part of Europe those years has a story. Might be something that is unique, and each one of us is unique. We all have something to tell you. We all have something to say. To begin with, who am I? What's ever done? That's wrong. That's what was told to me by my rabbi. We are still human beings, but nobody knows what that end stuff is waiting for them. Me, I was born in Poland. Lodz was a city. I was born in 1930. To a family that was extremely religious. As a matter of fact, my grandfather was a Gerahosek. You can see that I had wandered away from the line of place. But it's always going to be back. I was born to a husband and wife that already had 2 children. Myself and my brother, who was 2.5 years younger than myself. When the war broke out, I was only 9 years old. My brother, on the other hand, was 6.5. I was born in Lodz. Now, that in itself tells a story. Lodz was a very highly populated food station. which are Germans by birth, but they lived in Poland. A very tremendous amount of those people lived there. September of 1930. I'll be finished with this very thing.
I'm getting exercise.
The Germans marched into Poland, and within the period of 2 weeks, conquered the whole country. People don't realize how big a country it is, even though it's small compared to the United States, but it's a very small country. Yet, the problem that I remember as a kid, the airplanes that the Poles had, when the war broke out, they had disassembled to sleep or breathing. I don't know how you could fight a battle that way. Eventually, as time was rolling out, we saw a ghetto being constructed. Here, all the little towns from around the Lodge area, they all had, they all wanted to change into something, but nobody knew which way to go. A lot of people migrated to Russia. Isn't that like jumping out of the fire into the frying pan, or vice versa? In effect, all the little towns that were around Lodge had a very great population of Jews. The population estimate before the war, just about the wartime, was almost 50% Jewish. For 500,000, a quarter of them Jews. And as a matter of fact, just to wander away for a minute and give them a feeling of what it was. Piotrków, Poland, was very much dominated by Jewish religion. Rabbi Lau is now Yisroel Lau from Israel. His father was the rabbi of Piotrków. That whole family was Rabboni. And so on. After a little while, my father decided there was a way to get out of it. So what he did, he translated my mother, grandmother, and grandfather. And as much as they could put on a wagon, they loaded it up with whatever they could. And for us kids, it was a neighborhood game. We showed that the jumping and going and coming, and that in my day it was very, very hard work. Eventually, when we took off from Lodge for 180 miles of kilometers rather, to a little town which was near kids, bus home, and all those areas. So those and they had, and we wound up in a little town of Lakewood with my parents. That's when my father was born. Mind you, the population in that little town was 4,000. 75% was Jewish. I felt like we were home. I visited it 10 years ago. The shul that was there is gone. The mikveh that was there, nobody even knew that there was a mikveh, except little guys like me. Because we used to play around the mikveh. And so on. And that was 19, by this time we are into the double digits. 1941, we were still without the ghetto in that little town. But the Germans did not want to hear that. They were going to get it. They were going to have a ghetto made up. After a little while, sure enough, one morning, around October of 1941, the Germans knocked on the windows for all the houses. And by our house, most of the houses had shutters. So they were banging on the shadows. All the Jews have to come out to the center of town. They bring a little valise with them. They're only going for a resettling program. The resettling was not a happy time. Or it meant for another couple hours of freedom. My dad, for some reason or other, knew something that was coming. And him and two neighbors, they take a shelter. They built it in one part of the house because the house's floor did not have any floors. So you could dig. At night, when everybody was sleeping, the men folks would go and dig the hiding place. The place must have been about 10 foot long, 4 foot wide, and about 5 foot high. They managed to have 10 women, rather, and 10 children. No male was allowed to go into it. In my parents' household was my mother, my brother, myself, and one of my grandmothers. I went into a hiding place. That hiding place, everybody sat around on benches. 2 benches were in there. It was fine for about 2 days. Now we started running out of water. Started running out of food. How do we get this stuff down here? Well, we have the chutney boys. My brother and myself, by this time I was 11 years old and he was 9 and a half. And we would go out, go down to the river with 2 buckets and come back with 2 buckets of water each. We developed muscles like you never believe. 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. Now food was starting to be very, very hard to get. The bakery, which was mostly non-existent, we used to go down to the bakery early in the morning before they even opened up. We'd knock on the door, and the baker, who happened to be in Polish, knew us very, very well. My grandparents and parents had a very important part of that little town. The slaughtering of animals was part of my grandmother's property. They also had non-kosher, which was another section of town for slaughtering non-kosher animals. How I remained and how I remembered all the things, it amazes me sometimes. It took many years before I could even start talking about it. And if the ones I did talk about, they would say, what kind of boogermeister do you make up? Once, twice, 3 times. By the 4th time you were a beaten horse. You weren't going to do anything anymore. So we left it hanging till 1986, 85, 86. And we started finding out that people would start talking, or people like Elie Wiesel, who was with me and friends, and I see him from time to time. Actually, we can't afford him in here. You have to be practical. And the things ran on. Eventually, after 2 weeks in that hole in the ground, it was voted by all the women that we're going to get out and we're going to free ourselves out from this place. Sure enough, we came out and I said, I know a place in the river where we could walk across. I used to go swimming, try and swim over there, but it was too shallow for swimming. Let's go down to the river, go across the river, and hide in the bushes and then at night we could go wherever we want to go during the night. At the same time, that was a week of full moon, and we could walk at night alongside the river. We came walking out of the hiding place about 5 o'clock in the morning. It was still moon time, and when I made the statement, I said, if you don't want to go, I'm going to go myself. Well, they saw that I was a very stubborn little guy. I said, well, maybe he does have right. My grandmother said, okay, I'll follow too. My mother said, I have no chance. Are you 2 out of 4? My brother didn't know anything. He said, just take me in for doing things. I'll walk, and then I'll do anything you want me to do. We walked down to the river. We crossed it. The water was kind of chilly, and we went across. And I said, "You know what? Better let's walk along the edge of the water." They looked at me. I says, "Don't look at me. This is how we're gonna stop him from walking down with dogs." And sure enough, they came down with dogs about 2 hours later. Couldn't find us. And what happened? We stayed out there. At night, we took off for a little town 20 kilometers away. But we still had Jewish people that were not gone away. And what happened, well, they took the whole little town, the Jewish population of the whole little town, and they took them to a station where there was carloads, where they filled them into the carloads. Well, some of it was told to us, and some of it we found out afterwards. And we knew that the Germans left 50 people, 50 Jews, in a little ghetto, open ghetto, what they call. And we took advantage in the morning after marching all night to right next to the Vizsla. When we got to the little town, there was everybody in that area was intermarried. As a matter of fact, myself, I married a French girl. Now, I say, a French girl? She was born in France, but her father was a very religious, her father was a Shiva Buchar. Her grandfather was a very pious man, and she herself was not that as religious as most of the people here, but she is a religious woman. And That's how the whole population was in that area. That whole area was very much taken by Jews. Anyway, we stayed in the cousin's house. There was a bunch of relatives we had in that little town. We didn't sleep all night, so we went to sleep. And after about 3 to 4 days of being in that little town, we got a warning at night that the Germans are surrounding the town. They're going to resettle these people. Now, what happened is yeah, good job. Could you share with me your job? Anyway, my grandmother said, this is the list, this is as far as I went. Whatever happens to all my cousins over here, it'll happen to me. That was the last time I saw her. I saw my dad gone, and my grandmother is gone. Just my mother and my brother and myself. We walked in to that little ghetto town that we had left a week ago. And there was a notice for all the Jews that ran away. We allow them to come back to the ghetto. How much better do you want? We went and found a little building, and my mother was very happy that way. My job was to get bread, butter, cheese, whatever. The farmers did not have much, but to us we had less. My grandmother had some land that they gave it out to a Polish fellow, and he paid them so much every year for allowing to use the land, the farmland that they had. Also, she had cows, she had horses. Lebendige Welt. Eventually, we had made good contact, and I would go to the farmers. I would pick up the nourishments and bring it back. This one day, I had a promise by a farmer that he says, we are baking the bread. And I don't remember whether it was Wednesday or Thursday or someday in the middle of the week. And whatever it is, you'll pay me for it. And at least we had the food. On the way back, I picked up a bread. A bread, I wanted to know, is something the size of a Volkswagen tire, weighing about 10 kilos. Little guy like me just threw it in his sack over my shoulder, and I'm off. I'm walking back. I'm whistling. I'm singing to myself. Mom was going to be so happy to see me with all the bread. When I come walking in, I found my brother in tears. I said, what's the matter? Oh, the truck came down. The truck came down from Kelsa, which is an ammunition factory, and they needed workers. My mother at that time was only about 30 years old. Good looking and strong. And I helped my brother cry a little bit, but I saw there was no way that we could cure that. We have to think about ourselves now. And sure enough, like about after the trucks left, the notice was given to the inhabitants of the ghetto. We want to see the 4 boys, which was my brother, 2 other boys that hooked up with us, and myself. Now we're going in hiding. We can't show our head. At night, we were sleeping in barns. You name it, old abandoned houses, because all those Jewish people that left so many things. We were kind of afraid to go into the houses. Or the places that we liked most was something that you were away from everything. At night, we would go to sleep. One was always on duty. Every 2 hours, we would change around another boy for 2 hours. It's not that somebody's going to catch us. It was we were afraid, and that was my doing. We were afraid that we shouldn't freeze to death. So we would walk back and forth for 2 hours. 2 hours later, we'd wake everybody up, walk around for 15 minutes, and back to sleep you go. The best one was stables. God, they were wonderful. I said, what do you mean, what's so wonderful about a horse, a cow, or a chicken, you cuddle up to one of those animals and you get some of the body heat. And when you fall asleep, it's a machaya. Anyway, we go through for about 2 months like that. We got a notice, because we kept contact. We got some food from the ghetto and so on. We get notice that they open up the ghetto again. They bring in some fresh blood, and we did it very, very, very nicely. But when we came walking in, we didn't have where to stay. And then when we finally did, we had a little potbelly stove. We loaded it up with wood and coal and get it red and hot. Went down to the river, got some water, and we boiled the water. Got undressed because there was little animals creeping on our bodies. I have not seen anything like that in my life. And as long as I've been living in the United States, I haven't seen that many little animals that creeped around our body. We took our clothing, we boiled it in that water, took it out and got the other half of body uncovered, covered it, new stuff, and off we go. We are now wonderful human being. One day, about a weekend, the truck came around again, gave us a notice that Mom is in Kielce. She's in an ammunition factory, and she is settled over there. She wants for us to go to the same room to see her. We did. This time we couldn't get any more on the truck. The truck was full. He says, I'll be back tomorrow. We still need some more people. They came back. They came back for more cheap people. They got me. They promised me that they're going to bring my brother with another boy. One more boy came with me. And now he said, I'm going to see Mom again. Pulled in with the trucks, jumped down off the truck, and one of the inmates came up to me and says, "You a Chapnik?" I said, "Yes." This morning they took her out and a few more women to another factory. Well, that just blew the wind out of my sail. Got my room. I was in a bunk. You now trying to I'm by myself. I don't have my brother. I don't have my mother. My dad is gone. My in-laws, my aunts and uncles and cousins and God knows what, they all gone. What do? I went to work. There were 3 more boys like that. We kind of shared our load. Eventually, we hear that the Russians are approaching. We also hear that the ghetto was liquidated. And we're waiting for Mashiach. We're waiting for somebody to get us out. Nobody can. Everybody has his own little bundle of problems. Eventually, I was very handy. I became a foreman of a machinery. Here I was 12 years old, or 12 and a half, or something like that. And I'm directing 6 women. They would feed the machines. I would repair the machines whenever they needed. I didn't do that all by myself. I want you to know that whatever you do in life, there is somebody helping you. If it's not a human flesh, it's the guy above. There is always that help coming. we could never accomplish anything without some help. Eventually, one day, they came with a bunch of trucks and they moved us to another place, and another place, and another place. We are now in Chancellorhof. Chancellorhof was a very important place. We have all kind of things that faces us, but we have no idea which way it's going. And on the 5th of January, 1945, we get an order. I could sit here all night telling you stories, and which are very, very real, but time is. My wife is going to kill me. Men det flyr ikke med seg for kosher killing. Anyway, we were traveling through Germany. The first stop was Auschwitz. When we pulled in by Auschwitz, there was a sign. Geschlossen, which means it's closed. And there's one little thing there. We got to go back into the railroad cars. Railroad cars with. You're taken, we don't know where. After 15 days, or 14 or 15 days, something like that, we were pulled into a siding, and everybody had to get out. And we started walking. In twos, we are walking into the camp. And when we get really close, we see a big sign, Buchenwald. Well, we've heard something about it, but we didn't know what it was. Well, now we were marching into the camp, and there's another sign on the gate. Jeden das seine. Everybody gets their own. Now we come into a place, to a room about 1.5 times as big as this room. And we have orders to get undressed completely, put the clothing in very nice little bundles, don't mix them up, and you feel they're really something. But the next, before you go any further, there's a vat over there, a big vat of chlorinated water. And you have to walk in it and get covered from head to toe. And you say, well, I'll cheat him a little bit. I won't let him get ahead of me. So if you did that, there were 2 German soldiers standing on either side of the vat with a butt of a rifle, They would push you under. That now you come out of that vat and you're burning like hell, and you were trying to get some water, and you cannot. You're afraid that those little valves up there might be spewing or and bad stuff. But that happens too. Somebody decides they're going to pull the chain. Nothing's off. It's water coming out. Everybody running for the showers now. You clean off, and you get going further up. We walk into a room about the other side of this room with a counter, and they're handing out clothing. But before you get the clothing, you take a look at two black fellows. What do they do over here? And not only that, they speak a different language. I can't understand them. Here I am, I know 5 languages. Don't know anything about that one. Come to find out later on that they were American Negroes. There was 10 Americans in Buchenwald. Buchenwald had 39 nationalities. To make this very short, after being in that concentration camp for, first of all, the first 2 nights, 2 weeks rather, we were shoved into a bunk, 10 foot by 4 foot, into that little spot. They were able to squash 60 people. And if you want to turn over at night from one side to the other side, you had to wake up all 16 people, and you wake up in the morning during the night, and there's one guy doesn't move. One grabs one leg, another moves another leg, another arm, roll out of the bunk they go, and that's it. Here I felt that I was already pushed to the brink. When 2 weeks later, I get a call. Now this was Block 66. We're going to be being transferred to the children's block. That was the biggest thing that ever happened to me. They set us up on the ground, and a little German that was also that was he was, let's see, I can't think of, I was trying to think of his name, but Willie was his name. Willie says, I'm as bad as you are, except that I have privileges you don't. He was a German, whatever you call it. Anyway, he says, over here you are not any more Jewish. That's a religion. you're gonna wear your Star of David, or are you gonna take it off over here? Nobody is being. He really made order, and when 4 months later, when they came walking in, the JSS came walking in and said, we have to take all the Jewish boys out of here. He says, where do you see Jewish boys? And we don't have no Jewish boys. We got Poles, we got Hungarians, we got Czechs, but no Jewish boys. No, they went away. Of course, 3 days later, half of those people that went on a march, and we did. 3 days later was the 11th of April. April 11th was the day of liberation for us. We were liberated by peasants, the Third Army. Eventually, something happened to me. 3 weeks after being out of the camp, I get deadly sick. I got measles. Had that happened 4 weeks before that, I wouldn't have been here talking to you. This is hanging around there till, incidentally, I gotta tell you this little story. This is something that you really will enjoy. There was a little boy in that barrack, in Barrack 8. We called him Lulek. You call him Lau, the chief rabbi of Israel. And he matched right in with the guys. He was 8 years old. His brother was 16. And they taught him how to play chess. What do you think this little stinker does? He beats every Russian that was in the camp in chess. 2 weeks later, playing 2, 3 boards at the same time. This was Nachas. Yiddish Nachas. Anyway, on the 5th of June, we were 427 of us was transferred into France. There's another rabbi that helped us there too, Rabbi Schechter. His son is now a rabbi in the Bronx. Now you got something to look up. And Rabbi Lau at that time was 8 years old. He had a lot of people voting for him in France, but he went to Israel and went through the things, and And that was it with him. Another person that was with us was Ellie Wiesel. He showed up when I was, a couple more boys came to visit him when he came to the United States in 1950. Anyway, then I shall meet you at the same juncture. And when we have some more time, I would like to finish it off. Thank you very much for listening.